Okay, so I guess we'll bring this meeting to order. We'll start the meeting with the chairman's general announcement. Is this meeting is being recorded? Is anyone else recording? Okay. So Amy, we'll start with the agenda. The first thing on the agenda is, do we have anyone for public comments?
It looks like there's one attendee. If that attendee would like to issue a public comment, now would be the time. You can raise your hand. Okay, Dawn, I'm assuming that she has not raised her hand.
I don't see a hand up, so
we will proceed. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is approval of the September minutes.
And I'll make a motion to approve those.
Now I'll second the motion. We're both in favor. The motion passes.
All right. And the second item on the, or I guess we're now down to old business, so the flu clinic recap. So the flu clinic went really well. We have had a lot of positive feedback, more positive feedback than we've gotten at any other previous vaccination clinic, which I think is great. Someone emailed me today and asked me if I would read it because they knew we had a meeting tonight and they wanted the board and the other health department members to hear what she had to say. So I'm just going to read that now. Dear Amy, I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for organizing the East Long Meadow Flu Clinic with the Big Y Pharmacy. It was great. I was able to bring my elderly parents and they did not have to leave my car. It was so easy and safe for them, especially during the pandemic. I know you have a meeting tonight, so please thank Big Y Pharmacy and your awesome team for making this a great event for everyone in our town. So I thought, that really strikes the chord of what we were trying to accomplish with this vaccination clinic. Clearly flu vaccines are important, especially right now. But to be able to provide it in a way that our residents felt safe and comfortable attending, given that we're in a pandemic, was really what Alex and I strived for. And we found an excellent partner in Big Y. They were organized, efficient, and professional. And it was really great to, after the last meeting where we were talking about being in a little bit of a tough position, to find that partner to work with was exceptional. Over the 2 days, we gave over 500 flu vaccinations, which is exceptional for our clinics. Normally it is a one-day event, and last year was about 240. So even with the addition of a second day, we still exceeded what one day would have typically brought in. So I think that's excellent. I feel like if there is ever a COVID vaccine that the local health departments are responsible to roll out, that Big Y would be able to help us do this. And we talked about the numbers and the ratio and the event, the number of turnaround that we'd be able to do. And I think we could do 90 in an hour. So safely 90 in an hour. And they agreed with that assessment. And that's higher. So for emergency preparedness on our EDS end, I have to provide annual assessments of our ability to provide vaccinations in emergency scenarios. The high schoolers are setting for that. And a drive-through clinic is the way that I've developed that. And our numbers were less than 90. So now I have a real life situation where we're able to say we could safely do this amount. So it makes our emergency preparedness plans better as well. So I think overall, it was an excellent event. As you saw, we got some really great comments, and that's just one that asked to be read publicly. But there were many more, Alex. I don't know if you have any that stand out off the top of your head. I take that as.
Well, I did have a couple people email me and just saying thank you, but generally they all said the same thing that the other person that emailed you said, that they just felt that was super efficient and safe, and that it was great, and that they hope that we do it drive-through every year.
I have to give, sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
I was just gonna say, I got an opportunity to stop by. I mean, I was completely blown away of how well organized and efficient, that there was minimal line. I myself took, how many were we in the car? Um,
7.
Our whole family, family of actually 7 with grandma. And we got that taken care of, and we're family in the healthcare field. It was more efficient to do that in town and in our own backyard. And that was excellent. So kudos to you guys to really putting this together. It ran very well. Very excited to have Big Y being part of this team. Their team there that I got a chance to chat with, awesome. Really wonderful, friendly, and I can see how they can, they'll be an incredibly great partner, for other opportunities as well. So that, that was really great, and I agree. If it's a model that we can continue to use, you will probably continue to get those kind of numbers, even in future years. So that was excellent.
And I'll add that I got mine there as well and had the same experience in and out. Well, if it weren't for chatting, I would have been in and out in about probably 30 seconds. It was that efficient. And I just want to take this opportunity to remind people that it's not too late to get your flu shot, but you should. People are recommending get it before the end of October this year would be optimal, but that it is super important this year when we have a pandemic of another virus going on. We don't want to end up overloading our hospitals and emergency rooms and acute care centers with people that are ill, and it's very hard to distinguish between the symptoms. So I just wanted to make that public health plug for folks that have not yet gotten their flu shot to please go and get it.
Great. So the letter to town council recap. So everyone has now signed the letter of requesting the town councilor, President Mike Kane, and the town manager retake up the process of signing the IMA and discussing with the Board of Health. So now that everyone's signed it, we will deliver that tomorrow. And the Board of Health vacancy. So our lovely third member, Dr. Hinchy, has moved out of town, and that makes him ineligible to serve on our Board of Health. His last meeting will be November, and in that meantime, I have provided in your packet, or Alex provided in your packet, a sample of what we are hoping the posting to be while we look for your third member. I'm wondering if anybody had any comments, suggestions, or additions that they'd like to make to that posting. No? All right. Everyone's agreeable tonight. I like it. Alex, so you can go ahead tomorrow and provide that to Jennifer.
Good teamwork.
And then the last item on the agenda today is the COVID update. So we're having trouble keeping a nurse on. I think the last time we talked, we just finalized the nurse, and our numbers are quickly growing to a point where that nurse felt very overwhelmed and was rethinking her capacity to continue to do contact tracing for the town of East Long Meadow. She's agreed to stay on with the understanding that the majority of our cases at this moment will go to the CTC. For the last 3 months, in anticipation of any kind of fall surge, I've been on a statewide working group to help improve the CTC's product that they're delivering to local health departments, and the deliverance in a way that will be more useful to people at the local level. In the last month and a half, I got assigned a local contact who I've been working with before we sent her contacts with bringing her up to speed with kind of the flavor of East Long Meadow, what we would be looking for support, the wraparound services that our goal is to offer our residents who are experiencing the need to isolate or quarantine. And I think we have a team that is working for East Long Meadow that is going to do as good a job as any public health nurse would do without the medical support. Clearly, there's no replacing a public health nurse. I think our department is in need of a public health nurse before a pandemic. And now that we're in a pandemic, I think it's even more important. But our residents will still get the services of contact tracing through the CTC. And I think that will help us get through any fall surge. Last night on the school committee meeting, I mentioned that we, through midday on Saturday and the end of the day on Sunday, we got 7 more cases. That's significant. We haven't had 2 days like that since May, April area. I mean, that was a pretty big jump. None of them are related, so none of them are from the same household, and none of them have any social contact. So there's 7 community-based transmissions that have no contact to each other. They are with the CTC now, and I should, usually I get a report as they start making contacts, and I can see their close contacts. As you guys know, there's usually about 6 close contacts for every positive. So if we look at that and we try to predict out our numbers, we could see our numbers just with household contacts start to get higher in the next couple of weeks. We are currently in the yellow. The numbers come out every Wednesday. So far with the numbers that I see, I think unless something happens overnight or tomorrow, I think we'll stay in the yellow this week. I think we're going to be kind of right on that verge there. We have 16 active cases. Where it gets a little tricky, and what I meant to mention last night on the school committee meeting is an isolation is a 10-day isolation, and they look back 14 days. So sometimes it gets tricky because if they're looking back 14 days and people have already been removed from our active case log, we can see a higher number than what we see because those people out of isolation are still counted in our 14-day total. There's 2 people watching, so maybe that will help understand why my numbers are sometimes a little bit different than what the state gives us.
Amy, for the positive test, I remember yesterday you reminded me that you mentioned in terms of support services. So in other words, to help our residents be able to follow through with isolation or quarantine, depending on the situation. Is that something that's coming through our health department, or is that coming somehow or another connected through the CTC? Like, do they?
We help facilitate it through the CTC. So there's if it was our nurse who was doing the contact tracing for an individual in isolation and they said, I'm really low on food and I can't go to the store and I live alone, we could fill out a form. Usually in the past when that has happened, we just go get whatever they need and help them out in that way. If there was something bigger like transportation, things that we couldn't provide on our own, the CTC has a form that we're able to fill out. It goes right to their care providers, and they would help facilitate those services. So if it was a bigger food need, then, in the past, when the toilet paper was a big rush, they said, we can't find any. So we went to the DPW, we got some toilet paper, and we had it dropped off at their house. So if it was a small need like that, we would take care of it. But something bigger like systemic services, we would coordinate through the CTC.
That's perfect. And I'm just thinking about sort of different points of mitigation, right? So in terms of obviously the prevention that we do in terms of wearing the mask and wearing it properly by covering the nose and the mouth completely and doing the hand washing that's, being able to do it for the appropriate amount of time. And then the social distancing, or really the physical distancing, because I understand that it's challenging to disconnect from everyone. So if we're supporting residents to make sure that they know those kind of, to do those, at least those top 3 things, are there any other touch points like that? So now once there's that positive, how do we support people to make sure that they know that there's this additional support to sort of do that so that there isn't any further spread? So
I see. So we're using wraparound services a little bit differently. So I'm talking more about like, the fundamental needs that they might need, like if they were in a domestic violence situation, things like that. I think you're talking about the messaging that they're getting in terms of how to protect themselves and keep themselves safe.
No, you're right. No, I'm with you. No, we're talking about the same thing. I think I'm just thinking about how there's different points of mitigation. So the first point is preventing, but then once someone has it, there's another point of mitigation, which is further spread to others. No, so it's sort of I'm acknowledging, I think, basically that you have some strategies in place at different points that we can continue to try to emphasize that if people follow through with that, if they get the resources they need to stay home, if they have to do isolation, then that hopefully will mitigate any further spread to others that normally would be in contact. So helping folks do the right thing. Karen, what's our saying in public health, right? Make the right thing the easy thing.
Easy thing.
To do so that those kind of services, if I need food, and there's a way that if I'm in isolation to get that, that helps people to, to do that right thing. So these are the things I think people don't recognize or are not aware that sometimes you're able to provide through the two mechanisms that you mentioned. That supports our residents in sort of protecting their family and others.
Yes.
And
So
this
yeah,
is
whenever
where, oh, I'm sorry, Amy.
Go.
I was going to say, this is where there's a difference between a public health nurse that works for the municipality and the CTC. So we've seen this across the state that the CTC, even though they get an orientation to the town and they work with the health director on the wraparound services, they don't know the town and they don't know the people. And sometimes they're very far away. And it's a very different experience when it comes to case management than when you have a dedicated nurse that works for the town that has gotten to know the people, gotten to know what the resources are and the little quirks of every little thing, and can really case manage on a completely different level where Amy wouldn't have to be doing this kind of work to help the CTC. So I just want to say that that's really something to consider and something we've been seeing across the state. This is not unique to East Long Meadow. A public health nurse dedicated to your town makes all the difference.
And I agree, Karen, in terms of elevating that, when we're thinking about shared services and further, we have this gap. And although COVID is happening, other stuff still is happening as well, that a public health nurse could take a very important role in there. So we got to do the COVID and everything else. So I think if anything, you're absolutely right about that role and the fact that it's critical for us. So I love the fact that our health department has come up with a backup, like how do we plug that in? But at the end of the day, that isn't something that we'll be able to, necessarily, use that, continuously for the long term.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, and so the numbers will come out tomorrow. The most recent, I'm pulling it up right now because it wasn't in your packet. You guys might already know, but the most recent came out after the packet was sent. So we are still at the average daily incident rate per 100,000 is still 5.1, and it's once that gets to 8 is when we would turn red. Okay. Are there any questions about COVID that I might be able to answer for you? Either of you? No? Okay. Oh, yes, Karen.
I don't know if you can do this and keep it de-identified, but do you have like an age range of our cases? I'm asking because we've seen again at the state level that the age range of newly diagnosed cases has shifted younger, and so I'd like to know if East Long Meadow is mirroring that trend.
East Long Meadow is mirroring that trend, and we actually probably our age range is lower than the state average. The state average the last week was 37, and I haven't averaged it out, but I would say in the last 2 weeks we're probably 35. We've had 3 pediatric, our third today. So as of yesterday, there were 2 pediatric cases. As of today, there were 3. We have 1 long-term care facility-based positive, which in the last surge was majority long-term care. But no, I would say it was 2/3. Throughout the spring and summer, it was 2/3 long-term care based, now we're seeing it even bigger proportions to community-based transmission. But I don't have an age range specifically for you, but they're much younger. And I did find out, I don't know if we mentioned last week with Bay Path being in our community, if those numbers would be assigned to East Long Meadows numbers or somewhere else. And I did find out that we will still have access to managing them in Maven, but they will not show up in our weekly reports. So that's positive. So we're not going to see something artificial. Basically, we're not going to see an artificial red because there's a cluster at Bay Path, unless those residents all happen to live in East Long Meadow.
Well, that's interesting, though. That makes absolute sense, but it is interesting spending a significant time in the community. That how does that how would that impact? So I understand they won't fall into the numbers. Amy, is there any? I know you mentioned the public health nurse role and that gap and how you address it. Are there any other gaps that you might foresee if we then have sort of this this increase, if that's something that we might be anticipating? Any other challenges that you think?
Yeah, I think the main, Donna Bowman, our inspector, is doing a fantastic job with following up with our complaints. I think last month we gave you the numbers. Alex, I don't know, can you pull those? Can you do that? Thanks. And so our numbers with complaints still are soaring. And she's been able to get out to every place. We have addressed every single non-mask usage or I can't even think off the top of my head, but complaint that we have gotten, which I think is phenomenal. And if we did not have that full-time inspector, had this been 2 years ago, when there would be no way we'd be able to address these concerns or complaints. I think the community just has a lot of, even if it's not a complaint, has a lot of questions. We're dealing with a high volume of questions. And that's really taking a lot of my time, right? So Dawn is doing anything out in the field. Alex is managing the office. I'm kind of continuing to do the policy, education, and outreach piece, but also being available to our community members who have questions and concerns, whether it's like the gymnastics place. Can I increase does this new order that's come out for October 5th change anything for me to, I want to open a business in town, right? Like there's still so much volume of questions that that's where I see the biggest challenge, is that we try really hard to respond to any questions, concerns, complaints within 24 hours. It's just always been a standard that our residents deserve a quick turnaround, right? People shouldn't have to wait longer than 24 hours for a question or concern. And it's hard to get that, meet that standard right now. Alex, go ahead.
Do you want to know how many inspections she did in August?
How many complaints came in the last month since we last talked to these guys?
Oh, let me.
Okay.
Is there a particular trend to that too? Are they falling into, any kind of category? Is it gatherings? Is it just
It's
sort
all
of
of it. It's public gatherings, like my neighbor's having a party and there's 100 people in their yard. What can we do? And we're trying on the front end to do education and outreach to try to prevent those things from happening. But then once they do happen, it's responding to the complaints. I went to this facility the other night and no one was wearing a mask. We get the complaints, so the state has a complaint form. So we also, in addition to responding to our residents, we have complaints that come down from the Division of Labor and DPH directly. So if people don't know that they can come to us, they go to them and then they funnel them down to us. So we're also responding to those types of complaints.
The reason I was asking is because if there was some kind of trend that you're seeing, let's just say is about having home gathering, is there any information we could put out there? I know you do a lot of education. I see the tweets at all hours of the morning. I know you're posting. I know you do stuff on the television station, all that. So just thinking about strategically, if there was something that you're seeing is happening more often than time, is there something we can do to support with some more education and outreach?
It's mask usage. I think the majority of our complaints that come in are mask usage. One of the things that Alex and I have talked about is we're doing a big public messaging campaign around Halloween. The town is not planning to modify. It's not Halloween trick-or-treating is not a town-sponsored event. So we really didn't feel like it was our place to offer any kind of cancellation on that or anything. But we are offering lots of education. And so there's a whole campaign that Alex has, and I have developed, she's gonna do all the posting, about safe trick-or-treating. What can we do? The CDC has put out stuff, DPH has put out stuff, other health departments have, and in order to encourage trick-or-treating, but in a safe, responsible way.
I spot on. So I really appreciate your approach, because I think it's one thing to take sort of evidence-based practice or what the recommendations are and then put them into the context of reality. How do we help people translate that information in a way that fits our lifestyle so that we could do the right thing? So I really appreciate that you're thinking about that and how you can get that information out. So that people can start thinking about that as they might be planning some activities. You know, and I haven't looked specifically at trick-or-treating, but everything I know when others have spoken about gatherings, about individualized things, you know, not putting food out, you know, and everything from not doing indoor, if that's possible, and all the other things that you would be getting. I think putting out there as a little mini blast, like if you need information or you have any questions about that, as much as I know you said you already get a lot of questions, better to ask. Like, we will try to figure out how to give you the tools that you need to make the most informed decision that works best for you. So it's within the context of people's lives. I think will work and resonate better. And I know it's a little bit of more work on your end, but I so much appreciate that you're thinking about that ahead of time.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, so last month we had 31 COVID complaints, calls, and inquiries, which is compared to August 44. This month, though, we're 6 days in and we've already had 12. So we've had a lot in the past week. Mostly mask usage and mostly inspections for Donna.
So this adds a significant amount of just labor to what is already a demanding full schedule. But I think Donna's doing a fantastic job. Alex is coordinating and doing all the data tracking, so we have things like this to be able to provide you. So I think we're managing it as best we can.
Excellent.
I do have one last thing that wasn't on the agenda that I wanted to share with you guys. I was notified yesterday by MHOA, Massachusetts Health Officers Association. They're a statewide organization for health directors and people in the health field, that I'm given an award. I got a statewide award. So I'll tell you just what it's about. It's the John D. Crowley Award, and this award is given annually to a member of Massachusetts Health Officers Association who has contributed to the growth and success of Massachusetts Health Officers Association through outstanding leadership and extraordinary service. So it's the leadership award for MHOA this year.
Excellent, well deserved.
Thank you.
Blown away, and I think it just speaks volume about, again, how we said earlier about teamwork. You have been a wonderful leader in the department. We've been very fortunate to be supported by the town in terms of the town council's role, to give us the tools that you are able to put in place. So congratulations, Amy.
Thank you.
Very excited that you are part of this team. We have that person at our table taking care of our town. So just kudos, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Amy. That's a huge honor. There's a lot of really, just so the people out there know, there's a lot of really hardworking, bright public health officers throughout the state that they have to choose from for this award. So this, in this year especially, Amy, is an enormous honor.
Thank you. I was very honored that I was even considered. And I think one of the great things beyond getting the award is that it puts Western Mass on the map. Usually these are awards that people in the major metropolitan areas are given. And, you know, when we started the Board of Health, 3 or 4 years ago, one of our major missions was to not just meet the expectations, but to exceed them and be a force for Western Mass and a leader for Western Mass. And I think this award, it's for me, but I think it has, it really speaks to us as a group succeeding in our goal and our mission. So that's why I wanted to share it with you guys, because it's not just one, it's not just me, it's a group.
It's mostly you, but okay. Alex, could you please make sure that that information gets up on our social media accounts? Because I think that that's important to get out.
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
certainly be retweeting it because I'm proud of our town, and I'm super proud of you, Amy.
Thank you. I think they said they were going to run an ad about it in the reminder. As the people who win this award, the MHOA usually does a public press release about it in their community, so their community is aware of what's happening. So,
Karen, I completely agree with you, given the fact, right, that in terms of the public health, the workforce has, significant limitations in how it's growing. So it is not easy to necessarily have people of your caliber and your skill set to be able to champion for our town and how that represents us in our town and in our region. Absolutely. We are competing where there's a significant amount more resources. So yes, I agree. And it is all you.
well, I also have a great team. There is a great team in the health department, and I couldn't do the things I do without their help and support. Yeah. All right. So that was the only item that did not make the agenda tonight, because I just found out last night.
Well, that's a nice way to end the meeting. And of course, if there's anything that comes up that's time sensitive, reaching out to us if, make sure you have the tools that you need to take care of the town.
Yeah, should we pick another meeting, our meeting date for November? This would be Dr. Hinchy's last meeting.
Okay.
Maybe, since he's not here, I'll get a card and I'll leave it at the health department. And then if you two wouldn't mind stopping by, you can just call one of me, Donna, or Alex, and we can bring it out to you, since you guys can't come into town hall at this point. But you guys could sign it, and that way we could mail it to him at his new address.
I was going to say, we could either do that or an e-card. We've been using all e-cards at my workplace, which are also fun.
People sign them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could sign and add your own message and little pictures. And oh, yeah. I'm sure Alex could probably help you out with that.
All right, Alex, can you start a digital e-card for thanking Kevin for his service?
Yeah. And that way we can, again, help set the example for the town of how to do a celebration safely at this time.
Yes. All right. So, Sarah, I don't know if you have anything else, if you want to close the meeting.
Did you, sorry to jump in. Were you going to consider a date?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Don Mackey, what would we do without you?
Well, because I've got my master calendar, Amy, right in front of me.
All right.
I'm trying to whip people into shape.
You're the man behind the curtain over there.
I am.
Excellent.
So
all right. So
what do you guys generally think? What's today? This was
we always try to be general, and then it never ends up working
Amy,
that way.
Does Kevin, you want to make sure we get Kevin there?
Yeah.
Is there a time
let's pick a date, because we have all of us. So maybe we could throw out 2 dates that work. We can hold the calendar, and I'll send them to Kevin.
Okay, today's Tuesday. I can do any Tuesday. Karen, if this time works for you, I can do it this time on any Tuesday.
Yeah, this time I'm generally wrapped up by this time, so it should be fine.
And
do you want to do the 17th? Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say Tuesday the 17th at 6:30, but it looks like there's a planning board meeting there.
There is a planning board meeting. So that it's only an issue for me if I'm hosting the meeting. I will tell you had a little bit of an audience on Facebook as well. So I think given the situation and
Mm.
the subject of your discussions, I think there is a lot of level of public interest. So that having it on Facebook Live is probably helpful. And there's a charter review meeting every Tuesday at 4:30, which goes exactly 1 hour. Because they're
Do you
pretty.
know how long the planning board meetings usually go, Dawn?
It depends. It depends on what they have. I know actually that I spoke with Bethany today. I think they're planning because they have a public hearing on November 10th, which is the Tuesday before, which conflicts with council, but they're going to basically do their own meeting, which would probably free up the 17th.
I'm very flexible in the evening since we're using Zoom. So if Karen, has a particular evening that works best, I'm happy to work around her schedule and her availability.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
at this point, I really don't. I
Okay.
mean, I'm working out of my home, so
Okay.
I'm also much more flexible.
So let's go ahead and say November 17th at 6:30. I'll send it to Dr. Hinchy and make sure that works for him. And then I will follow up with email if there's any problems. And Dawn, I'll include you on those emails.
Yeah,
so
and
you
we can work out whatever has to happen. If that's what works for everybody, that's great.
Okay.
So we have a motion to close the meeting.
Yes, you do have a motion to close the meeting.
You're so awesome. And I will second
All
that
right.
motion. And we agree, so the motion is passed. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Stay safe, be well. Let's wear our mask and take good care of each other.
All right. Thanks.
And wash your hands.
Yes.